You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. With spring football in the rearview mirror now, ESPN and Mark Schlabach, they decided to take their look at their updated, way too early top 25 that they put out after the season ended, after Georgia won its consecutive national championships. And so now that spring has come and gone, where you had Georgia number one, Michigan, Florida State, USC, and Ohio State as the top five, you've seen some shifts a little bit. They've still got Georgia number one, Michigan 2, Florida State up to 3. A lot of people are drinking that Florida State Kool-Aid. And we've been talking about this for a long time, about how that was going to be a preseason top 10 matchup. And the more we go through this offseason, you're seeing more and more of the love for Florida State, something we've been talking about for a long time here. But Florida State, preseason, they've got them at number 3 right now. Southern Cal ranked 4th. Obviously, Southern Cal, I would argue no team did more in the transfer portal as far as adding starters and impact players than Southern Cal. Wide receiver Dorian Singer out of Arizona. Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina, the running back, is now at Southern Cal. Everybody knows they added Bear Alexander from Georgia. Anthony Lucas from Texas A&M. Kion Bars from Arizona. I mean, they have added some. Mason Cobb was a linebacker from Oklahoma State. They knew at Southern Cal they had to get better in their defensive front seven. That was their liability. And so they went and addressed that here in the transfer portal quite sufficiently. So Southern Cal up to 4, Ohio State down to 5. Notice we've gone through 5 teams already and have not mentioned the 6th team, which is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And the fact that Bama was certainly a breath away from being 12-0, but also, as we've talked about, a breath away from being 8-4 a year ago, and their quarterback situation is a mess right now, and they weren't dominant on the line of scrimmage, the fact that they are still getting this much of the benefit of the doubt is surprising, but also suggests the respect level that everybody has for Alabama. Because if you were to just take the name off the marquee and look at the blind resume, you would not have that team ranked 6th. They've got LSU 7, Penn State 8, Clemson 9, Texas 10. And those are the 2 big risers post-spring. Clemson went from 15 up to 9. Texas went from 16 up to 10. So those 2 say, look, even though, Clemson's got Cade Klubnik coming back, see how he does. Bijan Robinson's off to the NFL, but Quinn Ewers is back. Arch Manning came in. A lot of attention around Texas this offseason. The talent ratio, the blue chip ratio is there for Texas. Can they ever figure it out? Don't know. Remains to be seen. The other ones that kind of caught my eye were Oregon at 15. Oregon had been 9. They dropped all the way to 15. That's what happens when you go through a portal cycle and you lose a bunch of talent, as Oregon has, even though they have Bo Nix back. And by the way, Tulane's 19 for those locally who are interested in that. Ole Miss at 22, and Kentucky, which was unranked at the end of the season, they have Kentucky at 24, so into the rankings here post-spring. And those that dropped out, by the way, James Madison and Iowa are the 2 that were ranked at the end of the season and now have dropped out of these rankings. We got a long way to go before we get to the official AP rankings, the preseason rankings, and all that sort of stuff. But if you're looking at the SEC, Georgia 1, not a surprise. Bama 6, LSU 7. So really what we've come to know and expect is Georgia's still the class of the East. And when you look at Georgia's schedule, it would be a major upset if they don't win the SEC East. And when you look at the SEC West, it is a Bama, LSU, Bama race. I was asked this in an interview I did with WJOX in Birmingham earlier this week. Would I pick LSU to be number 1? I did. By the way, the guys hosting the show, Pat Smith and Landrum Roberts, agreed with me. They both had LSU 1, Bama 2, as they would pick it at SEC Media Days when we get our ballots. But then they asked me, hey, who's next in the SEC West? And I don't have a great answer. Like, I like Hugh Freeze a lot. Great coach. And they're going to beat someone they shouldn't beat this year. But they don't have enough talent to win there. And I know they're about to get Casey Thompson, very likely to get Casey Thompson, the transfer from Nebraska. But I don't know that that's anything that gets anyone real excited. I don't know how anybody could possibly buy Texas A&M. After the preseason top 10 rankings last year, after the 8-4 seasons, they have the great recruiting class, their preseason top 10, and they have a 5-7 season. Like, how could anybody buy them at this point? Like, if they get back to 8-4, that's an achievement this year. Nobody's going to be sold on Arkansas, losing both coordinators and a lot of talent. Yes, KJ Jefferson's back, but nobody's sold on Arkansas being a contender, which leaves the Mississippi schools. I think Zach Arnett would do well to finish 500 year one at Mississippi State when you look at that schedule and the question marks they have, even with Will Rogers coming back. And as we talk about Ole Miss, remember last year the talk with Ole Miss was, boy, the schedule was so ripe early, and they started 7-0, and then they cratered down the stretch. You look at Ole Miss this year, and it's the inverse. They got to go to Tulane. They play Georgia Tech at home in the non-conference. Then they go at Alabama. So they open up Mercer at Tulane, Georgia Tech at Alabama. Then they're at home against LSU. That's the month of September. They get Arkansas at home. They're at Auburn, home against Vandy, home against A&M. Then they go at Georgia, ULM at State for the Egg Bowl. Like, is anyone thinking that that's an Ole Miss team that's staring down 11-1, 10-2, which is what it's going to take to win the West? Not a shot. So it's LSU, Bama, Bama, LSU, whatever order, and then the rest of them, put the names in a hat and choose. Like, it's going to be a hodgepodge of 7-5, 8-4, and someone is going to crater, go 4-8, and get fired. That's what's going to happen in the West this year. So I don't have a favorite after LSU and Bama. You know, gun to head, have to pick. I take Auburn just because I like Hugh Freeze. I mean, but you got to play Georgia and Bama and LSU, so I think that's 3 losses right there. But man, who else is going to get to 9 wins? I'm not saying Auburn's going to. I'm saying who else in the West is going to get to 9 wins? I just don't see it. So LSU, Bama. I mean, every metric suggests that's what it should be and will be very likely. LSU, Bama as we head toward the regular season and very likely through the regular season. Keeping an eye on that November date with the Tigers and the Tide. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.